What is going on, everyone? Oh, wait, we have two more people joining here. We're going to do the intro again. Let's get everyone in so we can start at the same time. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Again, if you're just now joining, I realize Andy told me that we had a daylight savings time in Australia, so we definitely messed that up. But I'll make a note so for next time we don't have that same issue. So we're going to get this kicked off. What's going on, everyone? My name is Anthony Cofrancesco from Data Dive, and this is Office Hours. Today, we've got a pretty special session lined up for you, all about enterprise and using Data Dive to scale up your operations and go through this enterprise workflow. So a few notes. We just hired a sales team here at Data Dive, all really experienced sellers, and they're helping everyone get up to speed. And if you are already a Data Dive user and you want someone from the sales team, one of our new coaches, to get on a call, look at your listing, and give you a more detailed and custom breakdown of how to use the tool, then you should scan this QR code and book your Data Dive tutorial. So this QR code will take you where you need to go. So during office hours, there's two different ways to ask questions. You can either raise your hand or you can type your questions into the chat, and we're going to prioritize anyone who has their hands raised, and we'll take the questions in the chat as well. So for those of you who are new to Data Dive or you've been using it for quite a while and you want to get better, there's three different ways to become an expert in Data Dive. We have our knowledge base, we have our YouTube channel, and then as you know, we have office hours because you're here at the session right now. So the knowledge base, you can access this in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. You're going to see you have this chat button. And so you can either just click on that or click directly on the knowledge base, or if you have a question, you can actually type your question here into the chat, and the AI will look through all of the articles we have in the knowledge base and it will route you to the correct one. So a little bit faster of a workflow there to getting to the information that you need to see. As well, we have a lot of really good content on our YouTube channel. What I recommend starting with is our FAQ playlist. All of these videos are super short, talking like 2 to 3 minutes long, and they get straight to the point of some of the key functions in Data Dive that you want to do. It's like how to set up PPC campaigns, starting a dive for the first time. You can see all of that there. So you can scan the QR code or you can use the link on the screen. And then we're still a little bit behind on publishing the office hours content. The reality is I'm here in Asia right now in Vietnam, and over the next few days, I'm going to be in Bangkok and I'm going to get a videographer to actually reshoot the office hours content. So I don't think you're going to see the recaps on the past 3 sessions for probably another week or 2 weeks, but a lot of people are going to catch those replays. So you'll have to wait a little bit longer to get those, but anyone who joins the live sessions, you're at a little bit of an advantage. You get the information a little bit sooner. So today's office hours, like I said, is all about enterprise. You can see here, we're now wrapping up the quick start guide section of office hours. So first week was validate. Then we showed you how to launch products using Data Dive. Then we showed you how to optimize. Enterprise is about bringing all 3 of those workflows together and scaling up. So once you know how to validate, once you know how to launch, once you know how to optimize, this is all about getting your team to do those workflows over and over and over and over again. Now, once we wrap up the quick start guide, we're going to move into speed round. So if quick start guide is all about getting the essential framework, right? Like understanding how everything works together. Speed round is all about seeing repetition. So in the speed round, we're going to validate 3 products in 30 minutes. We're going to launch 3 products in 30 minutes. We're going to optimize 3 products in 30 minutes. So this is really good to get a recap of how the workflow works, get to see it in real life, and that's going to give you the confidence to go and apply this to your own brands. So you definitely want to register for those. You can scan the QR code or you can type that URL in. At the end of this, and right now, you can fill this out. I'd rather you wait till the end. We do have a survey, kind of a questionnaire. I actually do read these, so if you can take a minute to fill that out, it's super helpful. I like to get an idea of what sections did we not go in enough depth, where did we need additional clarification. So scan that QR code and you can fill out the survey. And yeah, I already talked about the future sessions. So here's what we're going to cover today. We already did the introduction. It's the first 5 minutes. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so going through the essential framework. So I'm going to give you an overview of the different workflows. We're going to talk about the relationship between growth and performance. We're going to talk about the relationship between actions and impact. And then we're going to go through the advanced strategies. Now, in the advanced strategies, these are kind of your homework. These are the things that you should go and set up right now, things that you should understand about how the enterprise workflow works. And then, as always, we're going to wrap up with Q&A for the last 30 minutes or so. And so your questions can be about the enterprise workflow. They can be about any other part of the tool. It can be, your questions can be about anything that we've covered in the previous office hours sessions. So let's jump into it first with the workflow overview. So, like I said, Quick Start Guide was all about giving you the essential framework about how to use the tool. So we already covered Validate, we covered Launch, and we covered Optimize. So I'm not going to spend too much time going through these workflows, like Validate, starting your dive, cleaning the MKO, analyzing the MKO, product scorecard, profits, and AI brief. Launch, I think everyone's familiar with this workflow. Optimize, you're familiar with that workflow. Enterprise is all about how do we take the three workflows above and get your team to do these workflows over and over and over again. If you're launching products and you need to validate them first, you ideally need your team to be able to go through and validate hundreds of product ideas before moving on to launch. And then if you're launching products, you want your team to be able to go through these launch workflows and launch product after product. Same thing with Optimize. If you have a huge portfolio of products, you want your team to be able to go in and say, okay, we're going to optimize one product rather, and do that again over and over and over again. So at the end, we're going to give you some action items. These are kind of like your homework for this section, and we'll cover that at the end. But we do want everyone to actually go through and try to implement some of these in your teams today. So let's talk a little bit about growth and how that's related to your performance. And so if you've been in the office hour sessions from the past 3 weeks, you've already seen a little bit of this graphic. And I've been giving this analogy about a rocket and a rocket launch. And so what I want you to think about is when you're selling on Amazon, what we like to say a lot is that when you're selling on Amazon, there's all of these different levers. And the success of you selling on Amazon is going to come down to, are you able to pull these levers down to their maximum amount to optimize for your performance? And so for this rocket analogy, I want you to think of all of these different things that you can do, from optimizing your main image, changing your listing, focusing on SEO, focusing on PPC. All of these things are like little levers, and those levers are going to control the thrust of your rocket. So imagine if you launch a product and your lever for PPC is only pulled halfway down, and then your lever for the image gallery is only pulled 25% of the way down, versus a competitor, their PPC levers pulled 100% of the way down, right? Their images levers pulled 100% of the way down. Whose rocket is going to go further? Whose rocket's going to go higher? And so for this analogy, right, all of these levers that control your rocket thrust and pre-launch is going to determine how well your launch goes. And then once the rocket is flying in the air, right, how much these levers, how much thrust you have in the rocket is going to determine how high and how far the rocket goes. So you've seen this before. What you have to really understand is that your success or failure on Amazon is ultimately fueled by these metrics. We've got relevancy, which is your SEO, how your listing is written. Then we have click-through rate, conversion rate, and revenue. You can see underneath each of these, we have some of the levers that can impact these metrics. So for click-through rate, one of the levers is price, right? Another is main image. For conversion rate, we have price, secondary images, A+ content, and video. And then for revenue, we have your organic sales, and then we have your paid sales through PPC. So imagine, again, in the rocket analogy, each one of these levers can be pulled down at different levels. So if, let's just say, for example, everyone is selling a product for $10 on Amazon, but somehow you figure out how to source and sell the product for $5, how is that going to affect your click-through rate, right? A lot more people are going to want to buy the product, theoretically, if it's cheaper. And so, again, just think about this rocket analogy. You want all of these metrics, your rocket thrusts are pulled down to the exact amount. So just to simplify this example and really make it make sense, I want you to think about these 4 metrics as SEO. That's going to determine the maximum height that the rocket can reach, right? So if you have your listing, let's say it's only optimized to 70%, your rocket, well, let me just say this first. SEO, relevancy, it's going to determine the maximum height of the rocket. Then click-through rate, conversion rate, and revenue is going to determine, like, again, the thrust of that rocket, how quickly it's going to hit that maximum height. So if you, let's say you had amazing performance, really good click-through rate, really good conversion rate, really good revenue, but your listing was only optimized like 60%, your rocket's going to launch, it's going to hit that top line very fast, and then it's going to level off. And so what we want to make sure is that for all four of these metrics, they're going to allow us through the listing to get to the maximum height. And then we're going to want our click-through rate, our conversion rate, and our revenue to have that rocket go up and the steepest trajectory possible. If that makes sense. So next thing I want to cover is action versus impact. And getting on these calls, sometimes these users have been using Data Dive for months, even more than a year. And what I find is that typically teams, especially teams of people who aren't sellers first, they're nervous to make changes, right? They're not really confident in terms of what they're doing. Their strategy is too grandiose, right? And they ultimately implement very few changes. So I get on calls with teams, and I'm like, okay, you've been using Data Dive for a year. How many times have you changed your title? How many times have you tried to optimize your main image? It's like, we haven't made any changes. What I want to shift you from is this left-hand view to the right-hand view, that these workflows is going to help your team to get confident executing the workflow because they understand the workflow, they're able to implement it. Instead of the strategy being too grandiose, the strategy is specific and incremental. So you're not trying to do everything all at once. You're not trying to go from being the 15th bestseller to the #1 bestseller in a week. You're like, okay, I'm going to do a little by little by little by little and gain positions over time. And then the last thing is we're going to move from implementing few changes to implementing many changes, knowing full well that not all of those changes are going to work out. That some of these tests that you run are going to be wrong. They're going to push you in the wrong direction, but you're okay with that. You're not too nervous to make a mistake because you know as long as you move slow, even if you make a mistake, you can go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. But as long as over time you're going up, then that's going to be strong. So this is really the end goal of what we want to get to. And I want you to think about winning on Amazon. Like the equation to winning on Amazon is basically the number of actions that you take multiplied by the impact of those actions divided by the resources. And so what Data Dive is really supposed to help you do is to take more actions with a larger impact, larger consistency, but then take fewer resources, fewer time. So imagine if I'm getting on these calls, right? Say I'm on a call with an aggregator. They got a team of 10 brand managers. And I'm saying, hey, you've been working for 6 months. How many times have you tried to optimize this title for SEO, for organic rank? And they're like, okay, we've only changed it one time. Okay, well, that's one action. Maybe it's going to have some impact. And they probably spent like a few months working on that. Not that they were working nonstop just on the title, but like they obviously have spent a lot of time going back and forth before making any changes. Again, what I want to shift to is instead of just being nervous, only making one change, could be a big impact, but probably not a big impact. What I want to change that to is like inside of a quarter, you might change the title 5 times in a quarter. Each time it's going to have a little bit of an impact, but the resources it's going to take is very, very small, right? We're talking like 20, 30 minutes to knock out the workflow. So what I want you to start thinking about is, this thing just keeps falling down. What I want you to think about is like, ask your team, this should be a weekly thing, right? What did you actually try this week? And what was the impact? A lot of people, when I talk to these brand managers, are saying like, well, how are you tracking your team's performance when they're doing these optimization work? And they're like, I don't really know. So I want you to really get an idea of like, what are they doing? What's the impact? So that's everything on the essential framework. Now we're going to move on to the niche pipeline setup. So Enterprise really works a lot with the niche pipeline, almost exclusively in the niche pipeline. So in terms of setting up the niche pipeline, the thing you're going to want to do first is set up your spaces, set up your labels. So how you can do this is if you're in the niche, if you're in Data Dive, you can come over to the left-hand side of the screen all the way down at the bottom, and you'll see that there's a button for your account. That's like your settings. So you're going to click on that. Then you're going to click on spaces, and then you're going to be able to set up and adjust what these workflows are. Now you're going to see this on the next slide, but spaces are really for product portfolios. So these are like different groups of brands, different portfolios of products that you have. So you can see here for brand portfolios, I have like Anthony's Essentials, The Right Stuff, TRS, Kitchen Wonders, Pet Life. And then if spaces are all about portfolios, labels are about steps in the workflow. So you can see on the right-hand side, this is kind of like moving through what is a draft for like a selling process from like having a product idea, moving it to validation, ordering samples, sourcing, launch, growth, maintenance, and then things that are ultimately rejected or failed. So now I think I'm going to give a more detailed explanation in terms of what labels and spaces are. I already said this, but I don't just want to recap. Spaces are used to categorize portfolios and brands, and labels are used to categorize stages in the workflow. So just try to remember that. It's a little bit new at first, but I think everyone will do okay. Spaces, portfolios and brands, labels, stages in the workflow. So this is a little bit about what it looks like. I'm just going to move this down so I can make sure I see all of this. So this is an example of a label. So this is steps in a workflow. You can see here, I've got this order samples, moving to sourcing, moving to launch, growth. So these are just steps in your phases, steps in your workflow, right? Now, I thought I was going to show something else there, but I guess not. Now I can move on to filters. So what you want to remember about filters is like your niche pipeline is a breakdown of all of the research, all of the niche pipelines that you've done on all of the different research, all the different niches rather that you've done in a data dive. And so if your account looks like mine, you might have hundreds of products in your niche pipeline. These could be investigating new product ideas that you're considering launching. These could be current brands in the portfolio. These could be, a whole range of different things. And so filters are a really valuable thing that you can do inside of the niche pipeline to break this down into more meaningful views. So let's say, for example, I'm looking to launch a product and I've filled out a bunch of product scorecards. I filled out the products tab for these products that I'm working on validation. Well, instead of seeing everything all in one place, what I can do is I can make filters. So the filters are super easy to set up. You're just going to click on the filter button, and then you're going to see you can name the filter. And so this first one is I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for any products that have a positive scorecard and a budget required to launch of less than $50,000. So you can see I've got the scorecard in my column, and then I've got budget required to launch all the way from $6,000 all the way up to looks like $560,000 to launch the product. So now I just make this filter. I can save the filter. And now in this view, it's only going to show me products in the niche pipeline that have a positive score on the product scorecard and have a budget required to launch less than $50,000. So filters are super valuable. You can set up as many as you want. I've seen people set them up for like, only show me the low competition niches. I only want to see products with budget required to launch of less than $10,000 and less than 3 competitive niches in the niche. Okay. So now next step here is managing your team workflow. This is going to be your homework for today. So if you're working with anyone in your organization that's not just you, or maybe you're let's see, can everyone still hear me? Okay, they can. It looks like my microphone just died, so I'm going to take this thing off because it's a little uncomfortable. So this is everyone's homework for tonight. Whether you're an individual in your company or you're part of a larger team, I want everyone to start using the niche pipeline because the niche pipeline is going to get better and better. And this is where a lot of the automations are going to come from. So if you are validating products that you're looking at, these opportunities, and you're thinking, hey, is this going to be a smart product to launch? What I want you to do, this is your homework for this week. Step 1 is create your validation stages. So everyone's validation stages might be a little bit different. This can go from like at the very top saying, okay, you can map this out however you want. You can change it and you can adjust it. Just use the information that I showed you earlier. Go to the bottom left-hand side of the screen on your settings, click on labels, and then you're going to create a new workflow, new stages. So validation can be like, you could start with, hey, here's a new product idea. This is just an idea that I have for a new product. And it can move. The next stage could be like filling out the products. I guess it would be like, here's a new product idea. And it's like starting the dive, I guess, would have already been started. So like new product idea, product scorecard complete, and then like profits tool complete. And then it's like deeper analysis, until eventually it's going to move all the way through your validation stages until you now take it and say, okay, either this doesn't pass validation and it goes into like, here's product ideas that we're not considering, or if it passes validation, then it moves on to the launch stage. So your homework for validation is to create your validation stages and then add any products to the validation pipeline. So if there's been 5 products, 10 products you're looking at launching in Q4 or Q1 of next year, I want you to take all of those and get them into your pipeline, get them into your niche pipeline and say, okay, these are new product ideas. And now I want to move them through these validation stages until we're either going to launch or the product doesn't pass validation. So to the next part, which is launch, very similar to validate. Number one thing I want you to do is create your launch stages. So a product passes validation, now it's getting into this launch pipeline. What could your steps be? It's like, okay, the past validation, maybe that's step number one. And then from there, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like order samples, do your quality testing, shoot your images, write the listing, create your PPC campaigns, set up external traffic. Like, what are the different steps that you need to do prior to launching a product once you create your launch stages? And then what you're going to do is, like, for all the products that you're currently actively launching or going through that process, you're going to add those products to the niche pipeline. So the last one here is optimize. So again, think about what your optimization stages are. The product has already been launched. Now it's going to move into this optimization pipeline. Could start with like, okay, we're optimizing. Like first check, like I said, you want your rocket to be able to reach that maximum height. So like step number one is probably going to be like, make sure that your listing is written correctly. So like check for SEO, check your listing to make sure it's written correctly. Next stage should be like optimize for CTR, like main image testing, price testing. And then for like optimize for conversion rate, okay, hey, we're going to look at the A+ content. I mean, we're going to look at the secondary images, optimize secondary images, optimize A+ content, optimize video. After that, it could be like optimize PPC. And you could go even further for optimize, like do external traffic, set up Google Ads, right? Any of these things. And so you're just going to want to go and create your optimization stages. If you're selling a product online right now, I should like do a little show of hands. Who here is currently selling a product on Amazon? What I want you to do is to go and take your current products that are currently being sold on Amazon, go create your optimization stages and ask yourself, okay, I'm selling this product. What's going to help me do better? Have I checked the title? Have I checked the images? Have I checked PPC? And put your product into one of these stages based on where you are. Hey, I'm going to work on putting new secondary images on the listing. And so like the stage before that for optimization might be like, okay, we do our creative work, we do a photo reshoot. The next stage is like upload the images to Amazon. It's like track conversions, track unit session percentage. So you're going to want to just build out these stages and add your products currently into the niche pipeline. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a good feature. I think it's going to get more and more automated over time. Very few people are using this, but we put a lot of work into it. It works very similar to like Monday, works very well. So I think this is where we wrap up, and then we're doing good on time. We're going to be able to open it up for Q&A. So building confidence and scale. So like I explained earlier, this is kind of my equation. Winning on Amazon really comes down to number of actions times impact divided by resources. And so like imagine if I have an entire product portfolio, right? I consistently hear this from aggregators. They're like, we have hundreds of products, we're selling in international marketplaces, and we need to optimize all of these brands at scale. So what's the answer for optimizing brands at scale? Well, number one is like go and create your optimization strategies, your optimization stages for your organization. Then you're just going to add all of these products into the stage that they're in and say, what do we got to do to take it from whatever stage that the product is in now for optimization and keep moving it along those lines until it's optimized to the level that you want. And my suggestion would be that level that you want to be at, it's going to be like until you're the number one seller, right? So if you have all of these, now you can see it like, okay, these products are super way down at the bottom, right? We haven't even checked the title on this. We haven't updated images in 2 years. These are going to be high priority. Those are going to be the optimization products that I want to work on first versus, okay, we've got people that are almost at the top of the category. It's going to be a lot of work to get that from the level it's at now to being number one. We've got some low-hanging fruit in terms of the less optimized products that we can go in and work on. So that's why I really want to show here, really, I mean, winning on Amazon comes down to the number of actions that you take multiplied by the impact, and that's going to be divided by the resources. And so we're just trying to make it so that your team can take more actions with a larger impact and take less of your time. So this should have some text on it, but if you want a really good breakdown of the validation, the launch, and the optimization workflow. We just had a webinar last week with our friends from Ascala. They make really beautiful SOPs. You can scan this QR code, and once I stop sharing my screen, I'll grab the link and paste it down into the chat. So they've put together some really nice SOPs that walk through at a granular level how to do each of these workflows. And so these are SOPs that you can hand off directly to your team. Almost anyone's going to be able to follow them, and they're quite well made. So this is where we're going to wrap up for right now. Just a few offers. I think everyone here is already a Data Dive member or an Inner Circle member, but if you're interested in any of these, then you can feel free to reach out and book a call with the sales team. We also have, if you've ever heard of it, we have Camp Ecom. This is our event. It's happening in January. Our early bird pricing, it doesn't end until November 30th, so you do have a little bit more time to join this. But this is a top-notch event. It's 2 days, all practical, instead of other conferences where it's like people speaking for an hour at a time, like pitching you their brands. You won't know any of the speakers at this event. They're almost all students of ours, and the content is all very actionable. So what we try to do is like 30-minute presentations and then like 60 minutes of practical. And when you start the conference, you're actually going to be given a workbook, and like there's actually exercises. It's very hands-on. So if you're new to selling on Amazon, or you just want to up your skill, you'll probably learn more in 2 days of going to Camp Ecom than you will from spending hours and hours on the video. Not to mention, there's crazy cool networking. On the first day, we do a speed networking around the fire where you rotate through different groups around the fireplace. We have parties in the evening. There's like competitions. There's really, really good. Hope to see you there. Go and check it out. It's in Orlando, January 14th to 16th.